So I'm gonna talk to you about the types of epidermal hyperplasia. First, let's try to define epidermal hyperplasia. Epidermal hyperplasia is an increased number of cells, right? So it's an increased number of cells of the epidermis, which increases the thickness of the epidermis. But this is actually benign and localized. So it's a benign hyperplasia, just the hyperplasia. We always know the term hyperplasia means it's benign. Of course, it's localized too, so no problem with that. So the epidermal hyperplasia is an increased number of cells of the epidermis, leading to increase in the thickness of the epidermal layer, benign and localized. We can add these two adjectives here, benign and localized. And we can classify this into 4 types. First, the psoriasiform. Second one is the irregular type. Third one is the papillated type. The fourth one is the pseudoepitheliomatous, or sometimes we call it the pseudocarcinomatous. Epitheliomatous. Or pseudocarcinomatous. Hyperplasia. So it's a psoriasiform hyperplasia. Regular hyperplasia, papillated hyperplasia, so pseudoepitheliomatous hyperplasia or pseudocarcinomatous hyperplasia. The psoriasiform hyperplasia, we find an elongation of the rete ridges with preservation of the papilla configuration. The irregular type, there is an elongation of the rete ridges with obliteration of the papilla configuration, as lichen planus. The papillated type, a digital projection above the surface, as verruca vulgaris. The pseudoepitheliomatous or the pseudocarcinomatous, it's an epidermal hyperplasia, right? So, which a tongue of epithelium grows downward into the dermis. So this time, we can say that these two are like the opposite, right? Because the papillated type is a projection upwards, right? But the pseudoepitheliomatous, it's a downward projection from the epidermis into dermis in the shape of a tongue. So it's a tongue projection of epithelium downward to the dermis. So that one needs to be differentiated from squamous cell carcinoma. We can differentiate this from squamous cell carcinoma by the presence of chronic inflammatory cells, and of course the lack of anaplasia. It can be, of course, associated with acanthosis too. So this can be seen in fungal infections, subcutaneous fungal infections, TB, syphilis, and juvenile melanoma. TB, syphilis, and fungal infections. Sometimes also in persistent insect bites. So the psoriasiform hyperplasia increased or elongation of rete ridges, right? But here we can say with preservation of the configuration of the papilla. As in psoriasis. But here, with obliteration, so it's a hyperplasia, right? Oh, same definition, but with an elongation of vitreous causing the elongation of vitreous, and this is here we can find obliteration, obliterated papilla of the configuration of the papilla. And as we said before, this can be seen in lichen planus. The papillated form and the pseudoepithelial form, this is an upward projection above the surface of the epidermis as verruca vulgaris. The pseudoepithelium is a downward projection into, so it's the hyperplasia forms a tongue of epidermis projection downward into the dermis, and that can be seen in just the important part here is it needs to be differentiated from squamous cell carcinoma. So this can be seen in juvenile melanoma, TB, actually in TB and syphilis too, also in fungal infections.